Think you know the Bible? Think again. Tune in as Rabbi Bensi Epstein and Tom Levine reveal the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary in Breakneck Through the Bible by Torch Dallas. Each episode may cover just a few verses, but don't let that fool you. Get ready to learn the Bible at a breakneck pace.
We're actually starting a new chapter 12, which is Lech Lecha.
And a new parsha, actually. A
new parsha, yes. What does Lech Lecha mean?
Lech Lecha means really go lecha for yourself.
Okay.
Which is fascinating because, it's like a journey. And that really is the epitome of what the Jewish people are. We're a people that are on a journey. And everything that happens in life is part of our journey. And so Lech Lecha here is sort of where, like every little kid, like they probably start from this chapter 12, verse 1, Parshas Lech Lecha, like this is the jumping off point of, because everything that happened before, is world history, and now we're focusing on Abraham, who is the father, the patriarch of the Jewish people, right? We have three patriarchs, Abraham being the first of them, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and four matriarchs, Sarah, who's Abraham's wife, and Rebecca, who's Isaac's wife, Rachel and Leah, were Jacob's wives. And this is really where it begins. This is the journey. Because at the end of Parshas Noach, and I think a couple episodes ago, we kind of went ahead and we touched on Abraham, because that's you have Abraham sort of being chased for 13 years, and then Abraham going and getting thrown into the fiery furnace. That all takes place, again, with Abraham when he's younger. Here, Parshas Lech Lecha is sort of where Abraham comes in. Like this is now. Lech Lecha Vayera Chayasar. The next three Torah portions, when for us will be a bunch of episodes, don't know how many yet, depends how many good questions you ask, Tom, is that these next three Torah portions are the story of Abraham and Sarah. Okay, and we started upon it, a couple weeks ago, right? And so now we're going ahead and we're now going to sort of flesh this out. And that's the quintessential story of the Jewish people. We're always on a journey.
So, Rabbi, is it significant to know the time span within Abraham's life of when these tests occurred? Like, how old was he when test 1 and 2, when he left his family and then got thrown into the furnace? I mean, just a rough context. Is he a young man? Is he a teenager?
I would say teenager, young man.
Okay.
Right? That's when he began to recognize that there's only one God, that there has to be a creator. And all these different gods just doesn't hold water. There has to be a supreme being that created the world. And that was that went into Abraham, and till he had the conviction to go out and to teach it to the world, and to go out and to speak it to the world. And that was sort of where this took place. Right? This was the going ahead and sharing with the world this idea of monotheism. Remember, monotheism was around before Abraham. You had Noah, you had Adam, you had Adam's children, you had Noah's children, and
which raises a great question. When did paganism or non-monotheism get introduced?
Correct. So paganism, so that started the third generation from Adam by his grandson Enosh. And Enosh is actually called man, and that's because that's when they began to say that there are other gods besides God. And Maimonides explains that how that took place was that people began to, people would pray to the sun and to the moon, and to intervene on their behalf to God, which in Judaism is considered idolatry, by the way. But they to the different powers that exist in the world, they prayed that they should help them intervene in God. And then their children saw them praying to the sun and the moon and didn't realize that they were praying to the sun and the moon to intervene to God on their behalf, but thought they were praying to the sun and to the moon. And that's really how paganism began. And that's why I always find it ironic that, people accuse Judaism of taking stuff from paganism, right? When the whole idea of monotheism existed before paganism, and paganism was a takeoff of monotheism. And so I kind of laugh at that because they have it backwards. But that's really what takes place. But Parshas Lech Lecha, where we are now, chapter 12, verse 1, this is really the story of Abraham. And the story of Abraham's life, everyone agrees that Abraham had 10 tests. 10 tests that Abraham had. And what exactly defined one test as one episode as a test, one as not a test? Is it a test? So there are a lot of different commentaries. Actually, what are the 10 tests? But everyone agrees there were 10 tests. So it's fascinating, right? And I'm actually in the Stone Chumash. They don't put it here. They put it at the end. And if you turn to page 100, right, in chapter 22, right, which is the 10th and final test according to everybody, there, right, in the footnotes, they go and they bring a list of these 10 tests, right, what the 10 tests are. And for our listening audience, I would just go ahead and, Tom, just have you read Rashi's opinion of these 10 tests, what these 10 tests were.
And it is interesting to note that many of the tests are the same.
Correct. Most people agree. I think there's 7 that everyone agrees were tests.
Okay.
And then the question is, what were the other 3?
Okay, so the 10 from Rashi, number 1 is Abraham hid underground for 13 years from King Nimrod, who wanted to kill him.
Right, remember King Nimrod, and we talked about this.
Yes.
Right, we talked about this in episode 30, that Nimrod was the ruler of the world, and then Abraham dared to challenge, right, the paganism that was going on, and Nimrod, for 13 years, is hunting him, wanting to try to kill him. He didn't have the Mossad working for him.
Yeah, I mean, because Abraham was a youngster, and to be able to hide from the king for 13 years speaks kind of highly about the ineptness of the king.
Or the greatness of Abraham.
Okay, good. That much, I like that better. Number 2, Nimrod flung Abraham into a burning furnace.
Right, and that was really a lot of the end of Parshas Lech Lecha, why Haran dies, right? And the brothers are kind of going ahead and backing Abraham, and then Nimrod says, I'll give you a choice. You could either, you're going to back Abraham, great, and then I'm going to throw you to my fire. God will see if your God saves you. And, like that type of discussion going on, so it's like.
So, we did discuss that earlier. But a question that had been plaguing me is that when Abraham's brother entered the furnace and perished,
Haran.
This was all a public spectacle.
Correct.
So that didn't help Abraham's cause for promoting monotheism.
Correct. And I think we touched upon it. I don't remember, but I think we touched upon it, that why did God let that happen?
No, we did. We did discuss that.
Right? Because that was why God made that happen, because otherwise people's free will would have been compromised. And God didn't want people's free will to be compromised. And so therefore, at that point in time, so God goes ahead and God says, alrighty,
okay,
right? We're gonna give people a chance to say that there is no God. Because again, even if 99 people after Abraham would have been thrown in the fire and would have died by the fire, but Abraham walked out of the fire. And it's impossibility. The only way Abraham walked out of fire was that his God saved him. So if 99 people would have perished, it would just say you have 99 questions. Why did God save Abraham and not save the others? Which we touched on as well also. But it doesn't take away the fact that God saved Abraham, and therefore you know there's a God.
So if we were to roll back time, and now Abraham is trying to convince the next person of Hashem's
omnipotence.
Yes. He can't use, it's harder for him to use, I was saved by the fire, because the opposition is, yeah, but the next guy wasn't.
Correct. Okay. So that means then it's individual merit. God just doesn't save you just because you believe in him.
God doesn't save you just because you believe in him.
Correct. Or you know in him.
He saves you because...
He has his reasons. I don't know. Meaning Abraham was willing to die. Abraham didn't say, throw me in the fire and my God's going to save me. That's what Haran said.
Yeah.
And Haran said, well, he saved Abraham, was going to save me. So as long as you believe, as long as you drink the Kool-Aid, you're in, you're good. You don't have to worry about it. And God says, no.
Doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work that way. Right? How does it work? So Abraham goes ahead and Abraham says, I'm willing to die for God. Then God will or won't save you. But you have to be willing to die for God.
Where in Haran's case,
Haran.
Haran?
Haran.
Haran was willing to be saved by God, but he wasn't willing to die for God. That okay, good. I love that.
Right, and that's really what happened. Right, that was the crux of what went down.
Good, thank you. That adds context for me based on what we learned earlier. Thank you. Okay. Number 3. Abraham was commanded to leave his family and homeland,
which is what we're going to get to now in chapter 12.
Okay. Number 4. Almost as soon as he arrived in Canaan, he was forced to leave to escape a famine.
Okay, we'll come to that, right? And he went down to Egypt.
Sarah,
Number 5.
Sarah was kidnapped by Pharaoh's officials.
Right, and then we have a whole story there.
The
right?
king, number 6.
Stay tuned. We're giving you like a little taste of what's coming up.
It's going to be hard for our audience to wait as long as it's going to take to get to these, but it'll be worth it. Number 7. 6. The king captured Lot. The kings captured Lot, and Abraham was forced to go to war to rescue him. Number 7. God told Abraham that his offspring would suffer under 4 monarchies. 8. At an advanced age, he was commanded to circumcise himself and his son. Would that be Isaac?
That would be Isaac. And actually, it really was Yishmael.
Yeah, well, that's
right. Isaac wasn't born yet. Isaac gets born a year later. He has to circumcise him as well.
And Ishmael was born at this point.
Ishmael was
13.
Okay,
good. We'll come to that. That's a very interesting story. Number 9. He was commanded to drive away Ishmael and Hagar.
Very difficult commandment.
Number 10. He was commanded to sacrifice Isaac.
Right, that's the crescendo.
The big one.
And that's in chapter 22, and that's why they're listed here. So everyone agrees that was the last one.
Yes.
Okay, so, but now all the other ones that are going on, right, all the other commandments that are happening, right, all the other tests, right, we'll get through. So we're really now, right, at chapter 12, we are on test number 3. Okay, and let's, according to Rashi, it's test number 3, and we'll go with that.
Okay,
now...
Which is an important point for our listening audience. If you ever are questioning Rabbi Epstein's authority or on what he's basing a lot of the studying and learning on, it is on Rashi.
Right. It's basically Rashi Rashi was a great sage who lived in France in the 1000s, I think 1065. He was born in 1065, and he is probably the most important commentary I would say, probably ever to live. Like that's how important he is. And he lived in actually 1040 to 1105. His name was Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki, which is acronym for Rashi. And he's the one that when you study the Torah or you study the Talmud, his commentary is considered the commentary. Everyone else has different opinions, and there are great sages, and they might take difference to what he's saying. You have Maimonides, you have Nachmanides, you have the Rashba. Yeah, it goes on. The list goes on and on. But the king of commentaries is Rashi.
Authority.
The authority, and again, and Nachmanides could argue on Rashi. I cannot. And I cannot argue on the Ramban. We cannot argue on any of the medieval commentators. And all I can tell you is this great commentary says A, this great commentary says B. You know, right? And what do I do? There's a famous joke. I don't know, my father told me many times growing up, and it's only what I think about. He said there was a guy who was running a vegetable stand on the side of the road, and this big guy walks in and says, "I want a half a head of lettuce." And the guy says, "Well, we don't sell a half a head of lettuce." He said, "Well, I'd like a half a head of lettuce." So the guy goes to the back to his manager. He says, "I'll go ask my manager." He goes to the manager and says, "Some idiot in the front wants a half a head of lettuce." And he catches out of the corner of his eye that this 6'10" guy was following him to his manager and heard him say, "There's an idiot up front who wants a half a head of lettuce." And without a pause, he turns and says to his manager, "And this fine gentleman wants the other half."
That's great.
Right? When Rashi and Nachmanides and Maimonides and they all get into it, I can tell you, well, this one says this and this one says this, and say, "Rabbi, what do you think?" The answer is, I have no opinion among these great sages, and these sages are there's nothing that we can even get to in our understanding of how they know, and so you just kind of say, okay, like this is this opinion, this is that opinion, and we have to follow an opinion, right? Obviously, and then usually we follow the majority, etc. There's whole rules on how we figure out what it is, but generally we'll follow Rashi. Okay, so now, and these 10 tests, right, that they're going ahead, and that Abraham is going to go ahead and pass these 10 tests. They're going to stand for the Jewish people for many great futures, right? And that's going to be when the Jewish people in the desert, when we left Egypt, we test God 10 times. But we have the merit of Abraham's 10 tests that go ahead and protect us. So these 10 tests are very, very important for the survival of the Jewish people.
Just to pull that together, we are not allowed or supposed to test God.
Correct.
So when you said that in the desert, when we tested God 10 times, that's a bad thing. We should have probably been killed at that point. So you're saying that we didn't die because of the merit of these 10 tests that Abraham passed.
Yes, exactly. Okay. For example, one of the 10 tests was we built a golden calf. Right? We should have all died. Right? But again, we had the merit of Abraham's 10 tests. Right? So we tested God in a bad way. Right? It's actually interesting. There's only one thing you're allowed to test God on.
Charity.
Charity, very good. Right? And that God says, in the prophets actually, it says, Ubechanuni na bezos, Amar Hashem Tzavakos. God of hosts says, you can test me only on this, by giving charity. And God says, if you give charity, God promises he will give you your money back. And you can't lose by giving to charity.
Wow.
So that kind of is really what it's about.
And we could have a whole class, and probably will, on charity.
Yes.
tzedakah.
Oh my gosh. Well, it will come up many times in the Torah. Actually, it's interesting because charity, right? Our money. We certainly in America, we're so tied to our money, like whether you're success or failure. When somebody says, "Hey, there goes a successful guy walking down the street," what does that mean? Everyone knows it means he has a lot of money. It could be he's working on his 5th marriage, and and his 5 different kids from the 5 different marriages. Nobody talks to him, and he's a train wreck of a guy, but he made money. So don't worry about it. He's a success, right? and obviously the Torah is far, far, far away from that. And how much money you have is dictated by how much God wants you to have. You won't have a penny more. You won't have a penny less. And your job is just to go ahead and to do with it what you need to be doing with it, what God wants you to do with it. That's what it's all about. So it's kind of pretty crazy stuff. So we have 10 tests. Now remember, there were 10 generations from Adam to Noah. There were 10 generations from Noah to Abraham. And now Abraham passes these 10 tests, is sort of fixing the world that had been damaged by the previous 20 generations, all the way from Adam to Noah and from Noah to Abraham. Because remember, when man was created, man said, am I physical, am I spiritual? And he says, well, we're physical, so we're different than spiritual beings, and goes ahead and physically goes ahead, and if we're physical, right, and ended up in the generation of the flood, right, they just destroyed the world. And then the 10 generations afterwards said, well, obviously we're not physical, we must be spiritual. And that ended up 10 generations later, after we destroyed the 10 spiritual levels of the world, we ended up in the generation of the rebellion, building the tower to fight God. And along comes Abraham, and this is really the essence of Judaism. Abraham comes along, and Abraham says, guys, we are a physical, spiritual being, and our job is to meld the two together, right? Is to infuse the physicality with spirituality. And when you infuse the physicality with spirituality, so then at that point in time, and you put the two together, that's what Judaism is really about.
Very good.
And it's taking that cup of water and making a blessing on it, and infusing that cup of water with spirituality. You've elevated the water, right? Taking everything physical in this world and elevating it. That's our job. That's what we need to do. So
just a small, quick deviation. When you say a blessing over a bottle or container of water, and you say the blessing and drink, how long do you have to wait in order to justify another blessing on the same bottle of water?
So usually you do it on a cup of water, not on a bottle. Okay, and what happens is that you go ahead and if you're in the same place and you're sitting at a meal and you fill your cup 3 times, right? But you already made the blessing, you just continue. Now when you get up and leave that meal, you should make an after blessing. Then if you go somewhere else, then you make another blessing on your next cup of Coke.
Because many of us carry a bottle of water in our car, or wherever we go, we've got our bottle of water.
Right.
So it's not necessarily between meals. And yeah, I'm driving from one location to another. I pop open the lid of the water bottle to take a sip. Is that another blessing?
So that's a great question. And actually, COVID has brought up a lot of other questions, because it used to be pretty clear cut. You eat breakfast in your house, you make an after blessing, you go to work. So, and then at work, you go, you take another cup of water, you make a blessing. Right? They were very clear cut beginning and end times for meals. Now, COVID, people didn't leave their homes for years on end.
Yeah.
Right? And so you walked from the kitchen table, right, 3 feet over, and you sat down in the living room, you wouldn't make another blessing. That's the same place. And so this opened up a whole nother, a whole nother area of Jewish law of what's really going on. Right? So it becomes a fascinating discussion, a real fascinating discussion, exactly at what point in time. Generally, when you leave your home, you make an end blessing, you finish it. Then if you go into the car, then you go ahead, you would make it.
Even with the same bottle of water?
That's a good question. Right? But like that's right. When you leave your house, like that's the end to the meal. Okay, that's a very good question. Then sometimes you get stuck and you don't know if you should make a blessing or not, so you can't drink.
Because it would be worse. Would it be worse to drink without a blessing when you should have had a blessing?
Right. So it's always worse to make an extra blessing than not to make one.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, because then you're taking God's name in vain. You're taking God's name in vain. Like that's
so if
really
you're not sure, don't make the blessing.
Don't make the blessing. But then maybe you shouldn't drink it also. Because it's not that you shouldn't, but you just don't know. So what happens is it becomes our lack of knowledge becomes the problem. Jewish law is clear. It's our lack of Jewish law that makes it problematic. And kind of like, and that becomes, well then, okay, I shouldn't make a blessing, but then should I really be drinking? So this is where Jewish neurosis comes in. But that's why you need your rabbi in speed dial.
Thank you.
All right, so we have Abraham coming and saving the world and going to pass these 10 tests, and he's going to fix up this world that was destroyed. Right, the 10 physical levels of the world were destroyed the first 10 generations from Adam to Noah. Then the 10 spiritual generations were destroyed from Noah till Abraham. And now Abraham has to reconstruct them all. And he goes ahead reconstructing them. So the first 2 steps in reconstruction was running away from Nimrod as Nimrod tries to kill him. And then number 2 is when actually Nimrod catches him and puts the gun to his head, figuratively, but the fire to his body, and says, I'm going to throw you into the fire. And Abraham says, kill me. It's okay. It doesn't take away from God. Right? That becomes the piece, the second test of Abraham. And it's fascinating because these 10 tests really have to be understood that they're a ladder. Okay, meaning if Abraham would have been asked to pass test number 10 before he went through test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, he would not have been able to do it.
Okay, just say that once more.
Okay, if Abraham would have had test number 10, which was bring up Isaac, before he went through test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right, he would have failed it. Because the tests were continuously building on each other, overlapping 1, 2, 3, right? Just building him up and making him strong. As I think of is like in the boxing world, not that I hate boxing, but in the boxing world, you start off with featherweight. And when you become the champion of the featherweight, they make you gain 3 more pounds, and then you go into the next weight. And then when you get to the top of that chain, then they have you gain more weight. And they're building you up, but if they put you into the super heavyweight round, you would be killed.
Good.
Right? And so too, God takes Abraham, and God is training Abraham, right, to become the most incredible human being. And it's a layer test, one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other. And the crazy part is, our lives are just the same. Just the same. God goes ahead, and God is busy layering us and working us out and conditioning us as we go from test to test to test to test to test to become greater and greater people.
So let me ask you this, Rabbi, and this may be one of those questions that just can't be answered. We know that that God tests us.
That can't be answered yet.
So we know that God tests us,
Yeah,
and at times we fail a test,
correct.
and that God will retest us.
Correct. That's why you never have to worry about passing a test. Because if you fail it, God will just give it to you again.
So my question is, the 10 tests of Abraham, are they really 10 tests of Abraham, or are they 10 successfully passed tests of Abraham? In other words, did Abraham fail certain tests between 1 and 10?
Absolutely.
Oh. We never talk about the failed tests of Abraham. We only talk about the ones he passed.
Well, because remember, in Judaism, there are 4 people in the world that died without sin. 4. 4 people in the entire world.
Yeah, but you're not saying that failing a test is necessarily a sin.
Correct. And but might or might not be.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Even, it's interesting because, you have to think like a Jew. When a Jew says the word sin, we all have the Christian concept in our head that sin is like disgusting and like mud and like horrible, right? Do you know how you say sin in Hebrew?
No.
So the Hebrew word is chet.
Chet.
A very common word. You know what the word chet literally means? Chet literally means to miss the mark. When you're in an archery competition and you have to hit the target, when your arrow doesn't hit the target, it's called a chet. The literal translation of the word chet means you miss the mark. What do you do when you miss the mark?
Try again.
Try again. And so in Judaism, if you make a chet, if you miss the mark, you know what you do? Try again.
I guess that would be true except for Abraham's second test.
Now what?
Well, if he missed the mark, he would have been burnt.
What?
If he had missed the mark on the second test, he would have been killed by the fire.
But the question was he right to be thrown into the fire? That was the test. Right? He didn't have the choice. His choice was to give up God or not. And he didn't give up God.
Good.
And really, everything that happens in life is really, we have to look at it in that way. There are hundreds of things that are being thrown to us over our life per day. And most of them we kind of, we don't even, we just probably just ignore. But in reality, as it's being thrown to us, we need to stop and we need to go ahead and we should really be thinking about it and then engaging in it. And then making a choice. And that's the story of life, is making these choices again and again and again and again, but making them correctly.
Good.
Right? And that's really what a test is. You have a choice. Somebody says something not nice to you. And you have a choice to react, how to react, not to react at all. And you might start yelling at that person, which might be the wrong choice. And now you have to stop and you have to say, oh, well, okay, well, good. So God will just have somebody else say something not nice to you. And then let's see what you do. And then you have to figure out, did I do it right? Did I do it wrong? So if you don't like somebody yelling at you,
learn the lesson.
Right. Do it right. Answer correctly. Talk back nice and calm voice. Don't let yourself get upended in equilibrium, because all that's going to do is what?
Fail the test.
Fail the test. And what is that going to be? So the next person's going to yell at you. You have to figure out what you're going to do then. Why is everyone yelling at me? The answer is because you reacted wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So number 6 had to come and yell at you too. And that's really, right, the idea of a test. And that's really God is conditioning us and taking us and working us up the working us up the ladder,
Building our muscle.
building our muscles. And then that's really what it is as we build our muscles to go to make those right choices. I mean, those are the things that we need to do. Make those right choices. So now, chapter 12, verse 1. Go ahead. What's the test is Abraham getting tested with?
Hashem said to Abram,
Remember, when does he become Abraham?
when does
It's
God change his
Avram,
name?
and then he gets changed to Avraham.
Avram.
When does he get changed to Avraham?
After he passes the 10th test?
No.
Okay.
No, very interesting. It's after he passed one of the other tests.
Oh, I don't know.
But Abraham is 99 when he finally gets his name changed from Avram to Avraham. And that's because Avraham, the numerical value of Avraham is 248. The numerical value of Avram is 243. And what happened was Abraham, or Avram, had not attained control over the 248 limbs in his body. And since he didn't have control of the 248 limbs in his body, his name was still Avram. It was only after he goes ahead and he retains control over the last 5 limbs of his body does he then get the Hey added to his name to change his name from Avram to Avraham. It's very fascinating. What were the last 5 limbs that Avraham attained control over?
Sexual organs.
Right, section 1. Okay, right?
Okay. That's 1. And there's 5, so 4 more.
Yeah.
His tongue.
So it's interesting. 2 eyes and 2 ears.
Oh. So I understand the eyes.
Right, because
How do you take control over the ears?
what you listen to,
What you listen to.
how you listen to it, what do you hear, what do you look to hear? Are you looking for gossip? Are you looking to hear not gossip?
Okay.
Are you looking to hear good? Are you hearing to hear bad? What are you listening to? Are you listening to this great podcast called Breakneck Through the Bible?
And telling all your friends about it.
That's right, of course. Right? Or are you listening to other things? Are you listening to things that are going to make you greater? Are you going to listen to things that are going to take you away from your greatness? What are you looking at? Guys always like to look at things.
Yeah.
Right? It's interesting. Guys have a desire to see everything, and women have a desire to be seen.
But just it's interesting that Abraham did pass a critical number 2 test,
Yes.
even without having control over those 5 items.
Correct.
5 limbs. 5.
Correct.
That's interesting.
Isn't it interesting?
There's hope for some of us. So how does that relate then to Sarah?
Now what?
Well, she had her name changed. Was that
Right.
also control over certain limbs?
So it's interesting. So, right, so...
And did they happen at the same time that Avram's name changed, that Sarah's name changed too? Or was there a period of time where one was changed and the other wasn't?
Right? And so it's very fascinating, right? Their name changes happen right one after the other. It's in chapter 17 is when they get their names changed, right? And right, and that's, and you know, this also it's interesting because we have 2 identities, right? We have our identity of ourself, and we have an identity with our spouse. It's very fascinating. It's a fascinating thing to think about. Right, we have different identities, and each one of us has our own personal identity and then our spousal identity. We're a couple.
That's interesting. I would have thought you were going to go with a public identity and a private identity.
That's also true.
Because how we're seen within our personal circle is often very different than our persona when we're in work or public.
Correct. Remember one of our kids, she was I don't want to say a terror. And we went to school like I guess it was a couple months in, like teachers, right, parent-teacher conference. And they start telling us how wonderful our child is. And we stop them in the middle and we say, you know who our child is?
Do you have the right one?
You have the right one. They said, no, this is your child, right? So we said yes. We got back home. On the way home, and my wife and I were beside ourselves. Like, what? And we come back home, straight to this kid. And we said, what's the deal? And they said, well, some kid in school was making trouble, and they made them sit in their cubby. And she said, I'm not sitting in my cubby. It was like one of those, talk about different personas, right? Like that was the two
Interesting.
Very, like one end to the other end.
So what you did is at home, you introduced the concept of a cubby.
Well, we said to the school, how much you have to pay you for a cubby? Pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy stuff. That our kids grow up normal at all is amazing. Actually, just really due to my wife, but
Yes, yeah, I hear that.
And so it's just pretty amazing. But we have lots of different identities, right? And sort of figuring out what my identity is or is not, right? Like that's that's pretty incredible.
So let's continue. Avram, Hashem said to him, "Go for yourself from your land and from your relatives and from your father's house to the land that I shall show you."
Okay. Go for yourself. What does it mean, go for yourself? This is very important because a lot of times God gives us a test or something's happening. And we say, why is God putting me through this test? Right? What does God want from me? Right? That's a question always, right? What does God want from me, Rabbi? Rabbi, tell me what God wants from me. And God didn't speak to me. He stopped that already, 2,300 years ago. So what is it? God is doing it for you. Lech lecha. Go for yourself. It's not for somebody else. It's for you to reach your potential. You see, in general, we human beings, we are very lazy people. That's just how we are. And God wants to make us great.
But it takes some effort on our part to do that.
It takes lots of effort on our part to do that. The first part of that effort is getting up, doing something, right? And it's interesting. Right now, my parents and in-laws, they're all turning 80. Okay, like that's my father-in-law just turned 80. My father turned 80 a year and a half ago. My mother-in-law and mother turning 80 this coming up year. And there's one question I asked them, and it always just a fascinating question. I said, could you ever have imagined your life the way it is? Growing up, my father grew up in Boston. And I said, Judaism at that point in time, everybody looked at Judaism as being it was going out of style. Last one out, turn out the lights. And you look at him today, you look at his kids and his life and where he is, and it just like, I said, could you ever have imagined it? Now, my father's an engineer, and as they say with engineers, they'll tell you, right, they're always right, and they'll tell you why you're wrong. They have everything thought out. And he says, Bensy, there is no way in a million years I ever could have imagined it. Okay. I said to him, the things that you thought were important that turned out not to be so important, things that you thought weren't so important turned out to be very important. He said, absolutely. I said, great. I said, Dad, do you mind giving me a list? He says he has to think about it. Then my father-in-law turns 80. He's not an engineer. He's a doctor. I said, could you ever have imagined your life? He says, and he grew up in some small town in Canada.
Winnipeg. No.
Actually, it was Winnipeg, I think. Right? And if you're from Winnipeg, I'm not insulting Winnipeg.
Yeah, I'm from Winnipeg, so I can say that.
And he says, there's no way in the world they ever would have thought about it. Not a chance in the world. Now, okay, good. So I'm smart. I'm a smart guy. I'm 55. Great. Could I imagine my life being the way it is now? And I'm so I'm from 55 to 80. So I've got 25 years. Can I imagine what the next 25 years are going to look like? No way. It's so incredible. Right? Trying to, right? You just can't.
So as a result, you probably don't spend a lot of time thinking about that.
Correct. Because
are you doing the right things today?
There we go. Yeah. Right. Like that's, or where is the ship heading? Is my ship pointed in the right direction? Am I going in the right direction? And what's incredible is that God tells us to Abraham, Lech lecha, go for yourself. Do you want to become the greatest Avram that you can be? Well, it's going to be a journey. And guess what? I am the captain of your journey, says God. And this lesson is not only for Avram, it's for every Jew. We're all on a journey. And figuring out where our journey is going to go, we have no clue. And God gave us a roadmap, thank God. It's called the Torah.
Which is perfect because starting on the next verse, we will continue and learn about that journey.
Correct. And next episode, we will talk about where God tells Abraham to leave from.
Wow. Which is just a perfect stopping spot, Rabbi, for our audience to be able to hang on bated breath for the next episode.
All righty. That's amazing.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Tom. Have a good evening.
You've been listening to Breakneck Through the Bible by Torch Dallas. Visit torchdallas.net for more mind-expanding episodes that will forever change how you read the Bible.